Is a pillow coming through on this?
No. And the one in your lap?
Yeah.
No, I don't see it.
And it's not on this camera either, right?
Right. I'm just shifting because you shifted.
No, I'm gonna move back.
Oh my god, you piece of shit. Okay. You gotta be able to reach your cockpit. So you can stay there. It's fine. Oh my god.
Why do you react with me? You know, on those Instagram videos, right? See if your partner matches your level.
Right, same energy? Yeah.
You just had that moment with me. All right. So where should I start now? Ivanova.
Yes, Ivanova, you really resonated with. She's had some vulnerable
Yep.
bits.
The other scene you see with Ivanova is with Garibaldi. When Garibaldi comes and sees that, like, kind of, you know, subtly acknowledges that he's found a gremlin, and he knows that it's not going to happen again, these phone calls on the gold channel. And he acknowledges that. He acknowledges that he knows what the message was. And at first, he says, I'll buy you a drink. And she says, maybe next time. No, she says, I'm on duty.
You're not going to believe this, but it was just what you originally said. A computer error. I fixed it, and I don't think it'll happen again. Will it?
No, it won't.
Buy you a drink?
I'm on duty. Garibaldi? Maybe some other time.
She has this really stern exterior image. And then, as he's leaving, she turns around and says, maybe next time. The moment she turned around and said, maybe next time, I was rooting for her. For someone like Ivanova, and, you know, having also been that person, for her to turn around and say, maybe next time, you know, that takes a lot. For someone like her in where she is at that point, that would take a lot for someone to say, maybe next time, turn around and she's on the verge of tears. I remember that I had moments like that too. Although now I'm much more open about these moments, so it's not as, let's say, difficult for me to acknowledge my vulnerabilities. But I can, like, that moment I was like, oh, you know, I can imagine like how hard that must have been for her, and how hurt she was feeling at that time for her to actually take him up on that offer and show him her vulnerabilities. You know, I actually recently had this experience too. It was just yesterday. My back is just killing me. I'm hobbling everywhere because of my chronic low back pain. And I hobbled into our morning meeting at work, and on Fridays the medical director is there. He's this really nice Filipino guy. And later that morning he says, you know, he asked to speak to me in my office. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, what's up? You know, and first we talked about a client, a patient there, a resident. And then he just asked me, how are you doing? And I said to him, you know, I'm on the verge of tears. There's a lot going on for me because of all my chronic ailments. And the stress at work has been so extremely overwhelming. And I've been on high gear since COVID. There's been a lot of changes. There's been less staff. There's been more responsibilities, and it's been nonstop. The stress certainly doesn't help with any illness. It exacerbates all of your symptoms. So the doctor says to me, you know, how are you doing? I told him I'm on the verge of tears if I talk about it, but I really appreciate him acknowledging, you know, that he sees something wrong with me. He's like, it's, you know, for the most part, you try to turn a blind eye, but it's not hard to see. I guess I'm not doing a good job hiding it like I once did as the past Ivanova in me. But I'm also, again, like openly acknowledging of all my vulnerabilities and my shortcomings, weaknesses, limitations at this point in my life. I don't really feel the need to hide it. It's just more, you know, put it on the table and see how I could continue on, you know, the next moment at a time. The past me would have really been angry for anyone even seeing my vulnerabilities, you know that?
Angry?
A bit angry. Like, how dare you? Like, see how weak I am? Or just irritated, like, you know, like someone would even like, you know, go pry into my business. But it's so irrational, isn't it? It's really irrational. The past me, the very, very past me, where I just really was very withdrawn and socially awkward. Very socially awkward.
Why would you hide when you're in pain? Like, why would you not want people to know that you're struggling? Where does that come from?
It comes from years of, you know, putting on this facade that nothing's wrong with you. That nothing's wrong with your life. Nothing's wrong with your family. There is no alcoholism in the house. Because it's already shameful enough that your family's not normal. It's already shameful enough that things aren't typical and your parents don't speak English. I mean, growing up as a child, that was huge. All my other friends' parents all spoke English, but my parents couldn't speak English. Back then, it was like, you know, kids made fun of me because my parents couldn't speak English. Kids made fun of me, calling me Chinese, and, you know, and all those stereotypical racial bullying sentiments that they shared. Everything was on the table as a way to, like, put me down, make fun of me, make me lower than who they were. So hiding any weakness was also something I believed to be important. It was one less thing that they could actually use against me. That's why.
Did you grow up poor? Because you don't complain.
조심하겠습니다. 넌 분하지도 않냐? 불공평한 대접받는 거? 언제까지 사건 사고 일일이 쫓아다닐 거야? 이제 전문성을 찾아야지.
전 적절한 대우 받고 있다고 생각했는데요. 현장성이 제 전문성입니다.
가난하게 컸어?
에?
하도 잘 참아서.
Yeah, growing up poor, didn't complain. Even when I was like working under the table at 14, didn't complain. Just so I could like have some textbook money for my school when the semester began.
You have a lot of pride in that. And that's what I meant about earlier when I said that your anger gave you a lot of value. You value your hard work. You value, in a certain way, the amount of burnout that you have. You value that you weren't weak, that no one helped you.
Yeah, I will value that.
All of that stuff gives you value, and as well as all the anger that motivated you. gave you value. Those are strong qualities for you.
I would say this. For the longest time, I'm very proud of that. I was proud of that. And I'm still proud of that now. But, you know, there was a price to pay. It cost me my health, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what it's come down to.
Your youth as well.
My youth.
I mean, you were working multiple jobs,
Mm-hmm.
school. You didn't have much of a youth or
Nope.
a 20s or
30s.
30s. Mm-hmm.
I didn't have my teens and my 20s because I was too busy working part-time while going to school. I didn't have my 30s because that's when I fell ill, and my chronic illnesses all started to that's when it all began, and it continued to worsen. I was very proud of like what I was able, the thing that I was very proud of being able to achieve was the fact that I did it. That despite what other people believed and despite what other people thought that I needed or had to be, I did everything I wanted to achieve without that, without their help, or without like some tainted sense of their contribution that later on that they could take credit for. I didn't want that. It's one thing if you accepted help from someone who genuinely wanted to give it to you. But it's another when you accept that kind of support and help from someone who keeps tabs. That's a very dirty feeling. That I refused. That's not something that I ever want to experience. I've had enough of, the bullying, the harassment, the racist remarks all throughout my life. The last thing I want is someone telling me that I got further because they helped me. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am. No, I didn't. That's the last thing I need in my future. I've learned to recognize who I can accept support from. The people that would be safe, the circumstances in which it would be appropriate. And those are the moments I now value. And I think that's probably what Ivanova, felt in Garibaldi too, because he was very genuine in his sentiment. He's not someone who would turn around and say, hey, by the way, remember that one time I bought you to drink after you lost your dad? You should thank me.
Right.
If I wasn't there for you, then you would have fallen apart.
What about Talia? She's very forthcoming with her, but for a different reason in the first episode. Talia is someone that she hates on principle, but she was very open with her, but it was a very different kind of openness.
I think that comes with a sense of resolution. So I think it's like acceptance that Ivanova did lose her mom. And this is what the Psy Corps represents. And it just is. And that's not something that I think anyone else could influence her or say anything about that could change how she feels about the circumstance. Like even if someone says, well, you're wrong, et cetera, and your decisions were wrong, your mom's decisions are wrong, and this is all just whatever, you guys are biased. I don't think she would waver, because she is set on what she believes, how she experienced it, and she's resolved in the outcome of that. She's resolved. And it would be the same thing for me.
Why does resolve make you able to be vulnerable?
I don't see that as vulnerability though, I guess.
Oh.
I don't see that as vulnerability. I see that as acceptance. You're vulnerable when you're not accepting, or when like something could come back and, deter you, waver you, affect you negatively. Does that make sense?
That's a really interesting perspective.
It's kind of like how I see some things, right? So I feel that like you are resolved when what you believe in, or what's happened to you, you accept, right? And if anyone came to attack me on what I believed, it wouldn't matter because I've accepted it. I've come to a resolution with it. I'm not saying this applies in all circumstances, let me tell you, okay? Because there's a lot out there that just really cannot be helped. There's a lot out there that cannot just happen with just resolution alone because there's a lot of violence and there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of crimes and a lot of hostility. I'm not saying that it's those situations by any means.
So you're saying that you're only vulnerable when you're not resolved in how you feel about a given thing.
Or when something is like really raw for you at that moment.
Oh, I see. Okay, yep.
I think you're more vulnerable when you're so raw and in a state of just this place of hurting.
I understand. So yes, so in the way that you see it, Ivanova is not vulnerable with Talia so much as she's just telling her the truth of what her already resolved feelings are. She has nothing to lose by doing so. She can't be hurt by anything that Talia comes back with because she's resolved in how she feels, as opposed to with Garibaldi, it's still very raw for her, so it's more of a vulnerable moment, her showing that emotion. Got it.
That's how I perceive it and feel it. I'm not, and like not all situations. It's very gray, right? It's a very ambiguous and gray place. But this is just my perception. You know, with the situation with her telling Talia about her mother, well, so many years have passed. But it's not to say that the loss of her mother still doesn't affect her. It's the fact that she's set on what she believes about the Psy Corps, and that will not change, at least for now. And that's something that she has resigned to and concluded on and resolved within herself, that the Psy Corps was just not good for her mother, period.
They're not good in general as far as she's concerned.
Right. Again, this is a very ambiguous feeling. It's a very vague, gray area of like how I'm perceiving it. I don't know. It's just a feeling for right now. I may change my mind later on. Like anything, right? Everything's up, you know. Everything's on the table and anything is possible. You know what's interesting about Babylon 5? So you have all these different aliens. They look so drastically different from one another, you know, including the ant underground dealer.
Isn't he a praying mantis?
Oh, that's what he is?
Yeah, he's a praying mantis.
In life-size form?
Yeah.
Okay.
With the wrong number of legs.
And like that woman-ish. Okay, I don't know if it's a woman, female. I don't know. Do they designate gender in Babylon 5 or, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What woman?
Well, you know
the woman that guy was buying flowers for?
Yeah, the woman who you know looked like she had like a bad plastic surgery done. You know, like. But
yeah,
look,
her face was a mouth. yeah,
but look, he accepted her.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in Babylon 5 accepts her. There's no one going to her and be like, hey, you got a mouth for your whole face. You know, like, come on, you know, like. Everyone looks so different. And there's absolutely no indication that no one's accepted based on their appearance.
Yeah, it's not really about appearance on Babylon 5.
No, but this is just one part, right? Babylon 5 is really about other things, right? It's politics.
Right. Yeah, politics.
But at least it's one less thing that they're focused on, appearance, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a huge thing in our Earth world, appearance. And I thought, wow, you know how pleasant it is, like how nice it is that like you have one that very superficial thing, appearance, is not a source of focus on Babylon 5. Even the woman with the mouth as her face can find love, and everyone on Babylon 5 accepts her. even like there. I mean, I'm not just talking about her. I'm talking about the praying mantis, the soul hunter. Although he was like dismissed for other reasons. But like no one is judged based on their appearance. And yet here where we live, people are first and foremost judged by their appearance. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if appearance wasn't actually a factor at all? I'm reminded of the Instagram person, the one that says, I love you. What's that person's name? I forgot, and how she had this really horrible time going through airport security.
They.
They, sorry.
I think.
They. And like how they were really judged based on their appearance, and I'm sorry, this is something that I have to like keep practicing as well. I'm not as I don't really involve conversations like this often, so it's going to take a lot of practice for me. But they had a lot of they even have people staring down at them and telling them that they're disgusting. At least in Babylon 5 you don't have that. Is it Kodath, Jakar's assistant? In this episode, I thought both Veer and Kodath were adorable. Like, they were so adorable.
Hey, hotspots. How about you and me blow this joint and go play a little scan the sector?
Trash.
Go play a little scan the sector. Oh my. That's so titillating. I thought the line that was really poetic and that lingered for me was, what was that slave owner's name again?
Trakis?
Yeah, Trakis, yeah. When he says, whispers in the dark, a knife in the back.
Do you know why a drunken fool like MIMbari has the power he has? Because his family has been collecting dirt on other families for years, like all the noble houses of the great Centauri Republic. That's how they play the game, isn't it? Whispers in the dark, a knife in the back.
Not all Centauri play such games.
Yes, and they wind up like you, without family, prestige, or power. Slaves.
That it was so poetic, and it was a beautiful line, but so just, what's the word? It was dark. It was so dark, but the line was beautiful. Whispers in the dark and a knife in the back. It was really nicely said. And the last thing I want to talk about is just Talia. As much as she's by the book and wants to make sure that she follows all the Psy Corps regulations, I mean, she has to, right? I'm sure that they're like keeping close tabs on her. I appreciate the way she still will consider morality in this situation, and maybe, just whatever I've known so far, right? But she says, well, really, is there really a woman's life at stake? And then she's willing to sort of bend the rules a little in order to make sure that a life doesn't terminate.
This is Ms. Winters, our resident telepath.
Telepath? You said nothing about this?
Oh, it's standard procedure in such dealings.
I don't like anyone playing around in my head.
I won't be. My purpose here is to verify the merchandise. So it's imperative that you do not think of anything else, such as the source of the information, your intent in selling it, or where Adira Tiri is now.
What? What is it?
The alien sector, somewhere on level 4.
Security, she's in the alien sector, level 4.
Affirmative.
Yeah, these situations puts her in a place of actually really humanizing her, because the impression I got was that they need to be robots. They need to like strictly follow a set of rules and, you know, follow along those lines, and it seemed like that there was very little room to be just their individual selves. So the scene really made her human, and I like that. I like that, like, she's able to, like, still within the confines of her profession, she could still bend the rules to actually individualize it according to like what her own thoughts are. In a way, I mean, I guess you could draw a parallel with me as well. You know, like what I understood about being a clinical psychologist was like not sharing so much of yourself, right? And staying within the confines and rules of keeping your profession and what you do in your profession neat. There's so many ethical guidelines to follow when you're a psychologist. And, you know, me like talking about my life openly is part of that too. It was something that I wondered whether or not it was okay for a long time. But I think anything's game now, so. But I appreciated that, you know, that Talia can have these moments where you could see her true intent and her true self, and you could see that she actually does care about people too. And that made her more likable.
Interesting. You'll like her even more as time goes on, I think.
You know, like, in this episode, the moment I really liked her was when Jakar and Londa are supposed to have that meeting, and Sinclair's like, well, Londa didn't show up, so Sinclair's like, I'm just gonna go find him, and she's like, what are you gonna do when you find him? What did he say? I'm gonna go kick his butt or something. She says, well, what if he refuses to come back, right? And then Sinclair says, then I'll hurt him. And she's like, oh, you know, like she lets out that laugh that just, I don't know if it was intentional.
It seemed very natural.
It was extremely natural, and like that, it was so out of place, but very natural. That was a moment I really liked her.
Keep them talking. I'm going to find Londo and bring him here.
What if he refuses?
Then I hurt him.
Like, her sense of humor came out. I really like that small, tiny moment.
What did you think about Garibaldi watching Ivanova's phone call as opposed to stopping when he saw what it was?
I actually was going to mention that. Because that bothered me. Like, here you are, she's having a really, really private moment with her father who is dying. It's very personal, extremely personal, and he didn't turn it off. As soon as he realized that it was her father that she was making the phone call to, and he's on his deathbed, if it was me, I would have turned it off right then and there, and I would have gotten the gist. But he saw it through, he like heard the whole conversation. It didn't sit with me very well. That didn't sit with me well. Because, I mean, I try to justify it by saying, well, he's security, so he should know what's, you know, everything that's going on, and maybe he needed to see the whole thing, blah, 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 blah. I try to justify it like that, but like, it wasn't quite justifiable. Yeah, it didn't. Why didn't he turn it off?
And that's another thing, again, with a guest writer. I don't know that JMS would have written Garibaldi to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
with the kind of relationship that Garibaldi was developing with Ivanova, I would have expected him to respect her privacy.
Me too. Again, I think it's the writer. I don't think that that's, you know.
As soon as I knew, or if
because it's not like he caught the tail end of it. He watched that whole
he did,
interaction.
and I think that was such disrespect. So it was this weird contradiction. On one hand, her father's telling her how a father should always give his daughter love and respect. And then you have this other man disrespecting her personal private time with her father's last words. And that didn't sit well with me.
I said on the YouTube that I would make sure to stress to you that it's MINbari.
Yes, I know it's MINbari. Look, I can't pronounce my THs either, okay?
The NB is
MINbari.
It's tough.
Right, so MINbari.
MINbari. Yes.
MINbari. MINbari.
Okay.
I know there's an N there. I watched this with subtitles. Okay. Well, for everyone who's watching and tuning in, I'm surprised. I have these really long, drawn-out conversations about things that are more personal to me, so I don't really expect people to be interested in it, but that's just my thinking. I'm realizing that there's a lot of different people out there with a lot of different interests. So, but thank you for watching. It is quite surprising that people are interested in hearing what I have to say from my own personal experiences watching B5. And if there's anything that you guys want me to add, let me know. But yeah, in today's episode, my emotions are really raw these days, given a lot of stress I'm experiencing. So I had a moment there. It does go to show, though, how media can be very powerful and how people can be affected by what they see, how they perceive it, how they interpret it, and what they take from it. And I think that was definitely an example of that. I did not expect that to happen, to be honest. I didn't expect to have like this moment of showing a lot of emotional vulnerability. And shedding a tear or two or many, but yeah, that caught me by surprise as well. So thank you for watching and being interested, and I'll do my best to continue on with this project. I think last time we only got up to episode 4, so if I complete next episode, I'm gonna actually break my record. Or is it the episode after that?
No, technically, if you get past the next episode, you'll be further than you've ever been before.
Okay, so then if
you'll be able to see the rest of the.
So if I end after the next episode, I'm still one episode further, right?
Right.
So should I quit then?
No. No quitting.
I'm gonna do my best. We'll see. But any questions, let me know, and well, we will keep on pushing forward and see how much we can get through of season 1 at least. I'm enjoying the series, and I'm finding it really interesting in how it's affecting me. More so now than it did ever before. I think 10 years has changed me a bit too. So I'm seeing it a little bit differently. But thanks for tuning in, and until next time, bye!